Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Third International Conference on the Role of Constitutional Review in the Protection of Rights and Freedoms in Algeria and in Comparative Systems opened today in the presence of judges and constitutional law experts from Algeria and several countries. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over the ceremony marking World Press Freedom Day, celebrated on May 3rd here in Algiers. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees has warned that the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon remains critical despite a ceasefire announced last month. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm your host, مساء. The Third International Conference on the Role of Constitutional Review in the Protection of Rights and Freedoms in Algeria and in Comparative Systems opened today in the presence of judges and constitutional law experts from Algeria and several countries. More details with Jamal Salmani.
In an address read on behalf of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, the President of the Constitutional Court, Ms. Leila Aslawi, stated that Algeria's hosting of this international legal meeting, now in an annual tradition, reflects the dynamism of Algerian constitutional law, its openness to international experiences, and its commitment to strengthening scientific exchanges aimed at consolidating the edifice of constitutional justice. She added that the conference renews the commitment to build a rule of law based on the supremacy of the Constitution in protecting rights and freedoms, and to ensure a state where no one is wronged and where these rights are firmly upheld across all institutions of the Republic. The President reaffirmed Algeria's belief that the protection and promotion of rights and freedoms are universal values requiring stronger international cooperation to address global challenges and changes.
Algeria today reaffirms its firm belief that the safeguarding and promotion of rights and freedoms are shared human values that transcend geographical borders, and that these values require more than ever close international cooperation to develop guarantees for their protection in the face of accelerating challenges and profound transformations taking place across the world.
The President of the Republic also recalled that this commitment is rooted in the Declaration of the 1st of November 1954, which marked the rebirth of the Algerian state as a democratic and social state.
Here in Algiers, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over the ceremony marking World Press Freedom Day on May 3rd. The ceremony was attended by senior state officials, government members, heads of national agencies and media organizations, journalists and representatives of the foreign press accredited in Algeria. In a press made on the occasion, the Minister of Communication, Zohir Bouamama, commended the efforts of the journalist community, which continues to strengthen its role in supporting the momentum of a comprehensive national development under the leadership of the President of the Republic in raising national awareness, informing the public opinion, and defending the country.
Esteemed members of the national press family, I extend to you my sincere gratitude and deep appreciation. You craft your truthful words every day and convey the truth as it is, while confronting with full professionalism and competence those malicious and orchestrated campaigns that vainly attempt to undermine Algeria. On this occasion, I'm pleased to commend your efforts to raise our media system to levels that enable it to contribute effectively to the path of national renewal led by the President of the Republic.
He also highlighted the President's support for the women and men of the press who support the state's efforts to safeguard gains and address challenges, in particular by highlighting our country's major achievements made at national and international levels.
We are today, as our country advances in the path of deepening the reforms you have initiated in the communication sector, working under your wise leadership to effectively translate into reality the new gains enshrined in the laws governing the media landscape in a way that ensures the strengthening of the free and responsible practice of the profession, thereby reinforcing the citizens' constitutional right to a professional, responsible and credible national media. In implementation of your high instructions, Mr. President, we are moving forward this year towards completing the legal and regulatory framework of the sector. Once the documents are finalized, notably those related to the profession of journalism and its associated professions, as well as the setting up of the relevant regulatory bodies and the High Council for the Ethics and Deontology of Journalists.
During the ceremony, the media representatives praised the President's commitment and support to the corporation, considering that this interest reflects a firm political will to promote the role of the media in Algeria through the organization of the sector and the creation of a safe and professional working environment. Still in Algiers, the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Said Shingriha, has presided over the opening of a national seminar entitled The Algerian Approach to Building Security and Peace in Africa. Addressing the meeting, Army General Said Shingriha welcomed participants and stressed that African security crises are increasingly shaped by external agendas, while noting that the proposed Algerian approach aligns with Algeria's African foreign policy orientations. He said the seminar aims to outline an Algerian approach to peace and security in Africa aligned with national policy, emphasizing balance, partnerships, dialogue, rejection of external solutions, and respect for the state sovereignty.
We seek through this forum to outline the features of a proposed Algerian approach to building peace and security in Africa, based on clear principles, based on a coherent and integrated vision of African relations. This comes in line with the major orientations of Algeria's foreign policy in its African dimension, as emphasized by Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, notably the need to lay the foundations of a balanced partnership and joint African action, reject imposed external solutions, and give the priority to the logic of dialogue and respect the sovereignty of states.
Army General Said Shingriha stressed that the African states must strengthen their national capacities and sovereignty to build a stable, cooperative continent free from dependence before officially opening the seminar. Prime Minister Sifi Gharieb has held a phone conversation with the head of government of Tunisia, Mrs. Sarah Zafrani Zinzri. During the exchange, the Prime Minister thanked on behalf of the President of the Republic the Tunisian authorities for their swift response and care for the injured following the recent Mejez el-Bab bus accident, as well as for facilitating the evacuation of the victims following instructions given by the head of state to this effect. He asked his Tunisian counterpart to convey the President's greetings and thanks to President Qais Said for the care and cooperation reflecting strong fraternal ties between the two peoples. The Tunisian head of government, for her part, said the efforts made in coordination with Algeria stemmed from a duty of solidarity rooted in strong fraternal ties, and conveyed President Qais Said's greetings to President Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has received a phone call from his Iranian counterpart, Abbas Araghchi. During their exchange, the Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs examined the latest developments related to efforts and initiatives aimed at reviving the diplomatic negotiation process with a view to putting a definitive end to the military escalation in the Gulf region. The Minister of State reiterated Algeria's firm conviction that all efforts must be made to reach a diplomatic to the conflict affecting the whole region, and called for strengthening the ceasefire as a prelude to a political process leading to a lasting peace in the whole region. The Minister of State in charge of hydrocarbons, Mohamed Al-Qab, has received here in Algiers the European Commissioner for the Mediterranean, Dubravka Suica, to discuss the state and prospects of strengthening relations between Algeria and the European Union and ways to strengthen them as part of the strategic dialogue between both sides. More details with Jamal Silmani.
The talks focused on strengthening hydrocarbons cooperation through expertise exchange and regular technical meetings. The Minister of State underlined its importance for Algeria-EU stability and energy security, calling for continued investment while highlighting Algeria's reforms and role as a reliable energy supplier. The meeting also reviewed energy cooperation progress, including gas supplies and field development, and discussed expanding cooperation to carbon reduction, carbon capture and storage, and energy transition. Mr. Arqab called for greater European investment in Algeria, citing an attractive climate backed by reforms ensuring transparency and simplified procedures. The European Commissioner presented the 2025 Mediterranean Pact and welcomed the strong Algeria-EU energy dialogue, praising bilateral relations and reaffirming EU interest in expanding cooperation. Later on, the State Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, received Mr. Suissa in a meeting that allowed for a comprehensive assessment of Algeria-EU relations and discussions on ways to strengthen and rebalance the partnership in line with the 2025 Mediterranean Pact, particularly in investment, trade, energy, green economy, higher education and mobility. Both sides also discussed current development and security challenges in the Mediterranean basin and stressed the importance of strengthening joint coordination to ensure an effective and sustainable response.
Egypt's Minister for Oil and Mine Resources, Karim Ibrahim Ali Badawi, today started a working visit to Algeria at the invitation of the State Minister in charge of hydrocarbons. The visiting Egyptian minister is leading a major delegation including the CEO of the Egyptian Petroleum Corporation, EGPC, and the Administrative Board Director of the Petroleum Projects and Technical Consultations Company. The visit is aimed at giving a new impulse to cooperation between Algeria and Egypt in the field of hydrocarbons and examining ways of boosting partnership between Sonatrach and the Egyptian companies. In Lebanon, 2 members of the Lebanese army were wounded in an attack carried out by the occupying Israeli army in southern Lebanon. More details with Jamal Silmani.
According to the army, an officer and a soldier were slightly injured following a strike targeting the village of Kafra in Bint Jabail while they were traveling in a military vehicle between army positions. Furthermore, the Israeli forces continued their attacks on several areas in southern Lebanon in violation of the current ceasefire, carrying out strikes on the towns of Barashid and El Mansouri. This constitutes a violation of the ceasefire that came into force on the 16th of April for a period of 10 days, subsequently extended by 3 weeks from the 23rd of April. Meanwhile, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has warned that the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon remains critical, despite a ceasefire announced last month, citing ongoing violence, repeated displacement, and worsening living conditions. Speaking today to reporters in Geneva, UNHCR's representative in Lebanon, Carolina Lindom-Billin, described the situation as being at a deeply fragile moment.
Despite the announced ceasefire that's been in place since the 17th of April, the humanitarian crisis in Lebanon is far from over. And we really want to highlight how fragile this moment is. It's marked by ongoing airstrikes, shelling, demolitions, evacuation orders, bans on return to certain areas, and movement restrictions that continue to drive displacement and rapidly growing humanitarian needs. And I wanted to do this briefing today to highlight that even though the capital Beirut hasn't been struck in recent weeks and the situation in Lebanon features less in the media, civilians in the south of Lebanon and parts of the Bekaa are really living with the same fear for their lives as before the ceasefire, and more are being forced to flee.
The UNHCR official also said that although all displaced people are longing to return to their homes, only to find their homes destroyed, their neighborhoods unsafe, and basic services unavailable.
So civilians continue to be directly affected, and insecurity continues to shape people's decisions about whether to return to their home villages or to stay put in relative safety for now. And many of the displaced are not even allowed to return by the Israeli army in areas it controls in the south. So we see that families, they flee, they try to return briefly again, flee again. So there is now this repeated and really exhausted cycle of uncertainty. And many of those who return and have tried to go back since the ceasefire have witnessed widespread destruction of their homes, of infrastructure, no electricity or water, damaged or non-functional healthcare facilities and schools, and ongoing risks from unexploded ordnance.
The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies echoed same concerns, warning that the conditions on the ground continue to deteriorate. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies spokesperson Tommaso Della Longa said that approximately 1 in 5 people in Lebanon are currently displaced.
The humanitarian crisis in Lebanon is deepening, and in Beirut it's impossible to ignore. Families are living in makeshift tents, struggling every day without reliable access to clean water or basic services. Today, 1 in 5 people in Lebanon, around 1 million people, are affected by displacement. Families forced from their homes speak not only of loss, but of their dignity being taken away. I met people living on the streets and others sheltering in the Sports City Stadium in Beirut, where the Lebanese Red Cross, with the IFRC support, is hosting around 1,300 people and expecting more arrivals. Dignity is central to the response. It is not only about delivering aid, but about listening, involving people and enabling them to support one another. The ceasefire remains fragile. It does not restore homes or livelihoods, nor does it guarantee basic needs such as water, food, or health care.
Aid agencies are urging the international community to increase funding and ensure the ceasefire holds, warning that without immediate action, the already dire humanitarian situation in Lebanon could further deteriorate in the coming months.
You have been listening to Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.